Ship time is 9 o'clock a.m., day 1. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain, Everett Langston, speaking to you from the bridge of the MS Eos Meridian. I trust you've all settled in nicely and enjoyed a restful first night aboard. We are currently cruising along a smooth bearing west-southwest at a steady 21 knots. Our present coordinates place us roughly 280 nautical miles off the western edge of the Azores Plateau. And I must say, we couldn't have asked for a more picturesque morning out here in the deep blue. The Atlantic is calm, almost unnaturally so. A vast pane of satin water stretches endlessly in every direction, and there's barely a ripple on her skin. The light cloud cover above us is thin and high, like gauze brushed across the dome of the sky. It's the sort of horizon sailors write about and rarely witness, a perfect circle of sea and sky, with the sun rising just off our starboard bow in a golden haze. This morning's barometric readings remain stable, with no systems of interest within several hundred nautical miles. Winds are gentle out of the east at about 12 knots. We've got a clean radar sweep and cooperative weather models ahead for the next 48 hours. If this keeps up, we'll be docking in St. George's right on time this Saturday, perhaps even a few hours early. But don't hold me to that just yet. Neptune always reserves the right to change his mind. Today, I encourage all passengers to take advantage of the peace and quiet this ocean has gifted us. Breakfast is now being served on Deck 4 at both the Compass and Meridian cafes. The Lido pool opens at 10 a.m., and we'll be hosting our welcome brunch in the Celestial Atrium at 11:30 for those who'd like to meet our senior crew and hospitality leads. And if you're a lover of the night sky, don't miss Dr. Ramani's seminar this evening on Deck 12, Mapping the Invisible. She'll be presenting some fascinating material on celestial navigation and the myths of the sea. For now, I suggest stepping out onto one of our promenade decks. Take a breath, listen to the wind, feel the slow and steady pulse of this ship beneath your feet. The Eos Meridian is more than a vessel. She's a world unto herself, a sanctuary on the sea. As always, should you need anything, our crew is here to serve. Until then, relax, explore, and let the rhythm of the ocean carry you. This is Captain Langston on the bridge. Enjoy your day, everyone. Ship time 7:15 a.m., day 2. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain, Everett Langston, speaking to you from the bridge of the Eos Meridian. I hope you all had a restful night, and perhaps even a few of you made it up to Deck 12 after midnight to catch that spectacular lunar halo we drifted beneath. A rare sight. Ice crystals at altitude catching the moonlight like a great circle drawn across the heavens. Even some of our more seasoned crew were caught staring. As of this morning, our course remains steady and on schedule. We've covered just over 530 nautical miles since departing Lisbon and are now well into the deep Atlantic basin. To give you some perspective, the ocean beneath us at this moment is nearly 5 miles deep. There's a kind of gravity to that, isn't there? A stillness that runs vertically as well as outward. Not something to fear, just something to respect. The ocean has moods, and right now she's whispering. That said, I'd like to mention a small shift in our weather pattern. Overnight, our barometric readings dipped ever so slightly. Not enough to raise alarms, but worth keeping an eye on. Satellite imagery shows a disorganized low-pressure system forming far to the northwest, roughly 800 miles from our position. At the moment, it poses no threat to our route. But the North Atlantic is known for its temperament. We'll continue to monitor its development and make minor heading adjustments if needed. No changes to our itinerary as of now. The sky is a bit more overcast this morning, with a soft haze rolling in from the northeast. Nothing to be concerned about, just nature adjusting her palette. Wind speeds have picked up slightly, now sitting at 18 knots, and you may notice a gentle swell as the morning progresses. For those susceptible to motion, I recommend a light breakfast and perhaps spending a bit more time in the center of the ship, where movement is most stable. Today's events continue as scheduled. At 9:30 a.m., the ship's naturalist, Peter Harrow, will be giving a talk on deep-sea biodiversity in the Aurora Lounge. Some astonishing things live far beneath our keel. This afternoon, we'll also be hosting a watercolor class on Deck 6 for those inspired by the sea's changing face. And if you look closely just after dusk, you might spot the subtle bioluminescent glow that sometimes dances off our wake. phytoplankton catching the churn of the ship and turning it into brief green fire. We are, at this moment, entirely alone in every direction for hundreds of miles. That's not something to be uneasy about. It's a kind of rare privilege, a freedom few ever truly experience. Out here, we are suspended between sky and sea, moving forward with quiet purpose. If you need anything, our crew remains at your service. I'll provide another update this evening before dinner, or sooner if anything changes. Until then, be well, take care of one another, and enjoy this quiet frontier. Captain Langston, out. Ship time is 6:40 p.m. Day 2. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Langston here again, speaking to you from the bridge as we transition into another beautiful twilight at sea. I hope your day was restful and that you were able to take in the serenity that only a voyage like this can provide. There's something about these long, open stretches of ocean that invites a deeper kind of stillness, not just in the water, but in the self. We are currently holding our heading at 231 degrees southwest, now more than 800 nautical miles from the European mainland. That puts us at what mariners sometimes call the Great Silence, a region of the North Atlantic where commercial shipping thins, and no land lies visible in any direction. It's not an emptiness so much as an expanse, one that humbles even after years at sea. Now, I'd like to take a moment to address a few things you may have noticed today. Beginning late this morning, we encountered a minor but persistent barometric decline. It's slow, steady, and subtle, but our instruments have confirmed a developing frontal boundary several hundred miles to our northwest, continuing to organize and drift southeastward. At present, this system remains outside our projected path. Nevertheless, we've slightly adjusted our bearing, just a few degrees to the south, to give the low-pressure cell a wider berth. This is a routine maneuver and well within expected tolerances for a voyage of this kind. The seas have also shifted modestly throughout the afternoon. You may have noticed a longer, slower kind of swell, low rollers, spaced far apart, with a rhythm more felt than seen. That's the ocean breathing deeply. These waves aren't wind-driven. They originate from somewhere else, likely the outermost spiral bands of the forming system we've been tracking. As always, your safety and comfort remain our highest priority, and the Eos Meridian is designed to handle much rougher conditions than these. There was also a temporary disruption in satellite connectivity this afternoon, which affected some of our shipboard Wi-Fi services and limited certain GPS channels. Our communications officers have rerouted signals through our secondary transponders, and services should now be fully restored. No cause for concern. It's not uncommon in this part of the Atlantic, especially when atmospheric gradients start to realign. Tonight's stargazing seminar has been moved indoors to the Horizon Theater due to cloud cover and light wind. I encourage you to attend. It's remarkable how even the stars seem to pull away out here, as if they're watching us from a further distance. One last note. Please take care when walking on exterior decks after sundown. The ship's motion is increasing subtly, and handrails should be used at all times. The crew will be on alert for spills or standing water, especially near the bow observation platform. I'll speak with you again tomorrow morning. In the meantime, let the ocean rock you gently into nightfall. We're still gliding, still steady, and still well within the quiet arms of the sea. Captain Langston, out. Ship time is 6:20 a.m. Day 3. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Everett Langston speaking to you from the bridge of the Eos Meridian. I apologize for the early hour of this transmission, but I felt it important to address several developments directly. Overnight, we encountered a shift in both weather and sea state. Beginning just after 2:00 a.m., winds intensified from the east-northeast and have since increased to sustained speeds of 32 knots, with intermittent gusts nearing 40. The swell has grown correspondingly, now registering at 3.5 to 4 meters, and you've no doubt felt a more pronounced roll beneath your feet or in your beds. Our stabilizers are fully deployed, and engineering assures me they are operating within normal parameters. However, I advise all passengers to exercise caution when moving about the ship, particularly on stairs and in open areas. The low-pressure system we had been tracking has accelerated. Satellite returns from just before sunrise indicate a tighter central rotation and a deeper pressure gradient than was originally forecast. We are now estimating the storm's edge to pass within 180 to 200 nautical miles of our position sometime in the next 16 hours. We have altered course again, this time a more significant vector shift to 195 degrees, and are increasing speed slightly to give the system a wider berth. I want to be clear, this remains a proactive precaution. We are not in direct danger, and the Eos Meridian is structurally and mechanically sound. She was built to endure conditions far rougher than this. Nonetheless, I will be suspending all exterior deck access until further notice. Crew will be installing weather barriers in key transitional areas, and we ask that you avoid loitering near doors that open to the outside. Room service remains operational, though delivery times may be longer due to restricted movement across certain decks. You may also hear intermittent thuds or deep structural groans. These are normal under increased wave impact, particularly when the hull meets cross swells from opposing directions. The Eos is flexible by design. She moves and adjusts with the water. These sounds may seem unsettling, especially to those unaccustomed to oceanic travel, but they are expected acoustic responses to natural forces. Additionally, some passengers have reported flickering cabin lights or temporary disruptions in their digital room controls. This is the result of momentary stress on our onboard power grid as it balances engine demands and stabilization systems. Our technical crew is performing rolling resets throughout the vessel, and all systems remain stable. There is no need for alarm, but I do encourage a certain quiet vigilance. The ocean is speaking louder today, and we will listen. I will speak with you again around midday with updated meteorological guidance and any further instructions. Until then, remain calm, stay inside where possible, and take care of yourselves and one another. Captain Langston, out. Ship time is 1:45 p.m., Day 3. Good afternoon, passengers. This is Captain Langston speaking to you from the bridge of the Eos Meridian. I want to thank you all for your patience and cooperation today as we continue to adjust course in response to the evolving weather system to our north. At present, we are making 17 knots on a heading of 195 degrees. This adjustment was made to both increase distance from the storm's projected eye wall and to align our motion more harmoniously with the dominant wave direction. While this may mean a slight delay in our scheduled arrival to St. George's, the reroute places passenger safety and ship integrity at the forefront, as it should. The storm itself, now categorized as a subtropical depression, has grown more complex in its structure. It is not particularly violent by historical standards, but it has developed an elongated pressure trough that's reaching further south than models anticipated. This has resulted in a band of atmospheric distortion that we are now threading through. You may feel the difference, not just in motion, but in pressure. Barometric readings on the bridge have continued their slow decline and now sit at 987 millibars. That's not critical, but it is notable. Many of you may be experiencing the physiological effects of this change: mild headaches, ear pressure, or a sensation of unease, not unlike descending in an airplane. The medical staff is aware and has made motion sickness tablets and hydration kits available at multiple stations throughout the ship. Please avail yourselves of them if needed. I must also address a few other matters that have reached me through the crew. There have been isolated reports of strange noises in lower corridors, clangs, vibrations, even what some have described as distant humming. These are not uncommon during sustained wave impact. Vibrational resonance can travel through a ship's infrastructure in unexpected ways, particularly when under mechanical load. Our engineering team is investigating each report, and so far, no anomalies have been found. Some of you may have also noticed that the elevators are moving slower or pausing between floors. This is a deliberate restriction, implemented to prevent automatic shutdown in the event of a lurch. Please use the stairs when feasible, and if you require assistance, don't hesitate to call the nearest crew member. Lastly, the bridge has received a number of inquiries about our communication systems. While we remain in satellite contact with coastal weather monitoring stations There has been increased latency in signal returns and occasional dropouts in digital TV and external calls. Our systems are functioning as designed. It's the ionospheric environment around us that is unstable. This happens more often than you might think when passing through intersecting thermal fronts. The ship is steady. The crew is calm. We are managing this with all the professionalism you deserve and expect. I will speak with you again early this evening with the latest projections. For now, I suggest finding a quiet corner, perhaps the library or the lower observation decks, and letting the rhythm of the sea settle through you. These moments pass. They always do. Captain Langston, out. Ship time is 7:10 p.m., Day 3. Good evening, passengers. This is Captain Langston speaking from the bridge of the Eos Meridian. I want to begin by assuring you once again, the ship remains seaworthy, and our crew is trained, equipped, and composed. That said, we are entering an operational posture I would describe as high attentiveness, not alarm, but awareness. As of the last hour, our meteorological instruments have begun to register data that does not match any of the predictive models we've been following since departure. The system to our north, previously behaving like a traditional subtropical depression, has now elongated into a slow-moving atmospheric corridor. But more strangely, it has ceased rotating. That's not impossible, but it's irregular. Normally, these systems spin tighter over warm water. Instead, this one has stabilized, like a massive stationary front stretched across hundreds of miles. As we altered course earlier today, our intent was to navigate around the outer edge of this formation. But as we've adjusted, the boundaries have also shifted, almost as though the storm itself is adjusting to us. This is not a metaphor, it's an observation. We have updated our satellite telemetry 4 times in the last 6 hours. Each update has repositioned the central mass of the system in our relative direction. Not rapidly, not directly, but enough to note, enough to log. In the last 90 minutes, we've also begun experiencing a persistent interference field, one that is affecting long-range communications and even short-range navigational systems on board. GPS signals are now intermittently disrupted. Our internal systems are compensating using inertial guidance and shipboard radar, but signal lag is increasing. I know many of you have noticed a low-frequency hum that seems to permeate the lower decks. I have heard it myself, faintly, when walking the corridor outside auxiliary engineering just after sunset. It is not mechanical, as far as we can tell, not electrical either. It resonates through the hull, almost like an echo, though we can find no source. Our technical team is monitoring the ship's stress frequencies and running diagnostics, but as of now, all systems appear within tolerance. The sea has changed character again. It no longer rolls in rhythmic intervals, but instead pulses in slow, irregular surges, as if something below is displacing the water, not wind, not pressure, but mass. The surface itself is darker, and our spotlights, though functioning, are not penetrating more than 10 to 12 meters beneath the hull. Out of an abundance of caution, I'm directing all crew to implement the internal movement protocol. This means you may see crew members speaking quietly among themselves, limiting access to maintenance corridors, or repositioning equipment and supplies. This is normal. It is proactive. It is what professionalism looks like when it's calm. I understand the growing tension. You feel it, as we do. We are passing through something not dangerous, per se, but unclassified. And that, perhaps, is the most unsettling part. I will update you again no later than 10 p.m., or sooner, if our conditions change. In the meantime, I encourage you to remain indoors, stay hydrated, and let the crew do what they are trained to do. You are not alone. You are aboard the Eos Meridian. We are together. Captain Langston, out. Ship time 10 p.m., Day 3. Good evening, passengers. Captain Langston here, speaking once more from the bridge of the Eos Meridian. I know many of you have had a long and disquieting day. I want to thank you for your continued patience and composure. This update is intended to be as clear, and candid as possible. Over the past several hours, we have entered the outer convergence zone of what is now being reclassified by NOAA as a rapidly developing occluded system, a rare and particularly unstable hybrid of cold core and warm core dynamics. This sort of weather event is uncommon in these latitudes and at this time of year, but not unprecedented. It is what meteorologists refer to as a bombogenesis scenario, a situation where atmospheric pressure drops exceptionally fast in a very short window of time, intensifying a storm structure dramatically. Our barometers have dropped to 975 millibars, a sharp fall of 12 points in just under 3 hours. The sea state has risen in kind. We are now encountering sustained swells of 5 to 6 meters, with a few sets reaching higher. Winds have increased to 55 knots and are gusting past 65. That puts us at the upper end of a force 10 gale on the Beaufort scale. Violent storm conditions, but still well within the Eos Meridian's operational capacity. Due to a combination of the wind angle and wave timing, we've been experiencing significant pitch and yaw, an oscillation that can feel erratic, even nauseating. Stabilizers remain active, but their effectiveness is reduced when sea states become multidirectional, as they are now. Crew members are deploying tension lines and securing loose items across all service corridors. Elevator access is being suspended shipwide until further notice for passenger safety. Please limit stair usage to necessity and use handrails at all times. The storm's eye itself has shifted to a slow southeastward crawl, still several hundred miles away, but the breadth of its frontal arms is immense. We are currently traveling within a corridor of cold air advection, where frigid upper atmosphere air is interacting violently with the warmer, moisture-laden marine layer. This is what's driving the erratic wind surges and the destabilizing swell patterns. It also explains the flickering in lighting and pressure shifts you may feel in your sinuses. These are natural physiological responses to low pressure and fast-moving fronts. We have plotted a new course to skirt the southern edge of the frontal boundary, now on a heading of 160 degrees. This will add time to our journey, but it is a necessary adjustment to keep us in the safest navigable lane. As of now, we are no longer within satellite uplink range and have switched to high-frequency radio for long-range contact with maritime weather services. This is standard protocol and poses no operational risk. I want to emphasize, we are not in a state of emergency. This is severe weather, but it is weather nonetheless. It is measurable, it is known, and we are trained for it. Please remain in your cabins if possible. Crew will continue cabin checks periodically through the night. If you require assistance, medical or otherwise, use your in-room service console or phone. We are here, and we are listening. I will provide another update by first light, or sooner, should conditions warrant. Until then, stay calm, stay seated, and do what people have always done in great storms. Breathe, trust the vessel beneath you, and wait for the sea to change. Captain Langston, out. Ship time 4:25 a.m., Day 4. Good morning, passengers. This is Captain Langston, speaking from the bridge of the Eos Meridian. I apologize for the early hour once again, but it's important that you hear directly from me about where we now stand. Overnight, we entered the core of the occluded system I mentioned in last night's update. The storm has intensified beyond what most models projected. We are now experiencing sustained winds of 70 knots, just above 80 miles per hour, and gusts approaching 85. That places this event squarely in Force 11 territory on the Beaufort scale. We are, in every technical sense, within the upper tier of a violent Atlantic storm. The sea state has become aggressive. Swells are ranging between 7 to 9 meters, with rogue sets occasionally cresting higher. These waves are no longer symmetrical or patterned. They are cross-directional, colliding at sharp angles and occasionally striking the hull laterally. This causes what is known as secondary slamming, loud, abrupt impacts against the ship's broadside. These are jarring, yes, but not damaging. The Eos Meridian's hull was designed with reinforced lateral ribbing and high tensile bracing precisely for these scenarios. Now, I need to address several critical developments transparently. At 3:10 a.m., the ship's primary satellite antenna mast experienced a structural failure, likely from wind shear at the forward apex. This has resulted in a full loss of our satellite uplink. We are now operating on marine band HF radio and internal systems only. Our communications officers are in direct contact with maritime response centers in both Bermuda and Halifax, and we continue to transmit hourly status reports. Let me be clear, we are not requesting rescue. We are informing. There is a difference. At 3:55 a.m., one of our auxiliary power buses auto-tripped due to fluctuating loads across the ship's stabilizer fins and freshwater propulsion exchangers. This caused a 14-second blackout across decks 7 through 9, as many of you no doubt experienced. Backup power engaged immediately, and we have since rerouted power through secondary conduits. Lighting, propulsion, HVAC, and critical systems remain fully operational. For those of you who heard or felt the list of the ship around 4 a.m., yes, we experienced a lateral tilt of approximately 9 degrees due to a multi-wave convergence impacting the port side amidships. That is near the upper end of our stabilization capacity, but not beyond it. The ship compensated and returned to level within 12 seconds. To minimize further stress on our engines and hull, we have reduced speed to 10 knots and adjusted our bow orientation into the swell angle. This is a maneuver called heading into the sea, and while it will increase ride discomfort, it will reduce side slap impacts and mechanical fatigue. I understand how unsettling this may feel. The sounds, the motion, the invisible forces pressing in from every side. But this is the ocean in its rawest form, an engine of pressure and pattern and velocity. It's not trying to harm us. It simply doesn't know we're here. We are navigating through the worst of it now. The barometer is beginning to stabilize at 968 millibars. If that trend continues, we may be through the deepest quadrant of the system by midday. Please remain in your cabins unless otherwise instructed. Crew will continue making rounds. If you see standing water, flickering lights, or feel abnormal temperatures in your corridor, report it at once. We are listening to every detail. I'll speak to you again before noon. Hold steady. Let the hull do the work. She was built for this. Captain Langston, out. Ship time is 11:35 a.m., day 4. Good late morning, passengers. This is Captain Langston on the bridge with a long-awaited update. I'm relieved to inform you that as of 10:50 a.m., the central mass of the storm system has begun to shift eastward. Barometric pressure has risen to 976 millibars and is climbing steadily, an encouraging sign. The worst of the weather is behind us. The gale force winds have weakened to the high end of force 8, and wave height is diminishing. What you're feeling now, the long, lumbering heave of the sea, is residual swell, not active storm surge. It will remain with us for some time, but its rhythm is predictable and, more importantly, survivable. I will not mince words. The last 12 hours tested this ship and all aboard her. Several minor injuries were reported overnight, mostly sprains, bruises, and one fractured wrist sustained during the list event in the early morning hours. Our medical team responded swiftly and professionally, and all individuals are in stable condition under observation. There were also multiple cases of acute seasickness and anxiety, particularly on the mid-decks where sway was most pronounced. We are working now to distribute hydration kits, ginger tablets, and calming aids to cabins by request. There was additional structural strain in several non-critical zones. One service corridor on Deck 3 took on water through a partially compromised hatch seal. That section has been sealed off and is being dehumidified. No passenger cabins were affected. One of the forward-viewing lounges on Deck 11 sustained glass fractures due to wind pressure and has been closed until further notice. Again, no injuries, but the glass will need to be replaced once we are in port. To maintain stability through the remainder of the day, we will continue cruising at reduced speed and remain on our adjusted southern heading. This means a significant deviation from our original itinerary. I will be speaking with operations shortly about rerouting options and port availability in Bermuda, San Juan, or possibly Nassau, depending on harbor conditions. We'll make that decision based on weather trends and fuel reserves by this evening. Now, I want to say something, not as your captain, but as someone who was with you through this storm, above you, watching it unfold from the highest point of the vessel. I've been at sea for over 20 years. I've crossed the Pacific, navigated typhoons, threaded ice flows off Greenland, and seen electrical storms unravel across entire hemispheres. But this was different. Not supernatural, not inexplicable, just unrelenting. This was the kind of storm that doesn't roar, but leans in, that tests your patience more than your fear, that wears you down by degrees. The Eos Meridian held. Her hull flexed where it needed to. Her engines throttled and surged and slowed with grace. And you, every one of you aboard, helped make that happen by staying calm, listening, and trusting the vessel. That matters more than you know. I ask for just a bit more patience as we assess internal damage, reroute logistics, and allow the sea to settle beneath us. Meal service will resume in stages beginning this afternoon, starting with Deck 6 at 13:30. Please wait for your deck to be called to minimize crowding. If your cabin has experienced any water intrusion, light fixture failure, or persistent motion noise, notify a crew member immediately. We're logging every detail. I will speak to you again at dusk. Until then, breathe deeply, step carefully, and if you must move through the ship, do so as if the floor is still remembering the storm. Captain Langston out. Ship time is currently 6:15 p.m., Day 4. Good evening, passengers. This is Captain Everett Langston, speaking to you once again from the bridge of the Eos Meridian. The sun has just dropped below the western edge of the cloud mass, and for the first time in 2 days, we have visible horizon. A burnt orange seam across a gray sea. It's a small thing, perhaps, but after the kind of storm we've passed through, it feels meaningful. The wind has fallen to a manageable 20 knots, and the swell is averaging under 3 meters, still present, but no longer combative. That said, I want to speak clearly to the reality we now face. We are not in danger. We are no longer in the grip of the system that challenged us, but we are not yet recovered. The Eos Meridian is operational, but compromised in subtle ways that require care, time, and precision to address. Our propulsion system is functioning, but one of our 4 main exhaust dampeners is running hotter than ideal. We've throttled down engine pod 3 to prevent escalation, which limits our top speed. Our estimated time to the original port in St. George's has now been extended by 38 hours. More if sea state doesn't improve as forecast. Furthermore, our stabilizer control interface remains partially impaired. Technically, all 4 fins are operational, but the digital trim feedback has degraded. That means we can't dynamically compensate for rolling action as effectively. In practical terms, the ride will continue to feel unsteady through tonight, and possibly tomorrow. Several decks are undergoing rapid response repair protocols. This includes ceiling panel reinforcement on Deck 9, electrical conduit rewrapping on Deck 5, and vent recalibration in several midship corridors. Our crew is working in shifts and sleeping in rotation. I cannot overstate their professionalism or resilience. But it's not just the ship we're attending to. I've received reports from our hospitality staff that many of you are experiencing fatigue, disorientation, and in some cases, distress unrelated to physical injury. This is to be expected. Prolonged exposure to motion, pressure variation, and environmental stress affects the nervous system. It's why things may feel slower now, heavier, like your body is still bracing for something that isn't coming. That is normal. You are reacting to intensity, now past. We will be offering optional guided breathing and grounding sessions in the forward event lounge on Deck 6, beginning at 7:30 p.m. Our onboard counselors will be available for one-on-one discussions, or simply to sit with you in silence if needed. You don't have to talk to feel supported. Dinner service will begin in staggered groups by section. You will receive notice through your cabin console. Please remain patient with the staff. They are working under logistical constraints and delayed supply circulation. Finally, you may have noticed that the outside decks remain closed, not because the storm persists, but because of what follows it. Lingering instability, high spray, and debris that must be cleared before safe access can resume. We expect to reopen limited sections by midday tomorrow. I will provide a morning update at 8 a.m. For now, I suggest rest. Read something, drink water, be gentle with yourself. You've endured more than the sea, more than most realize. We are afloat, we are recovering, and we are still underway. Captain Langston, signing out. 8 a.m. ship time, day 5. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Langston, with your first update of the day from the bridge of the Eos Meridian. We are currently cruising at 9 knots under our modified propulsion settings, maintaining a south-southwest heading. Skies above us are clearing steadily, broken cloud cover, high cirrus veils drifting from the remnants of the storm to our northeast. The air feels different today, sharper, cooler, as though something has passed over the ship and moved on, leaving behind a thinner kind of silence. Barometric pressure has stabilized at 989 millibars. Winds remain light at 12 knots, and the sea has begun to flatten into long, slow rollers, predictable now, almost rhythmic. The ocean no longer fights us. It simply moves beneath us. And yet, I imagine many of you feel that we are not yet free of the storm's weight. That's because we aren't. Not entirely. Weather is not just wind and water. It's impact, memory, adjustment. The Eos Meridian may be through the worst of it, but the people aboard her are still finding their way forward. The corridors feel quieter this morning. Footsteps are more measured. Eye contact is lingering longer. We are all recalibrating, each in our own way. Several passengers have asked why we continue at reduced speed, even though the sea now appears calm. The answer is technical and precautionary. Engine Pod 3 remains under load restriction. Our mechanical officers have determined it is safe to operate, but not at peak output, until the overheated dampener can be inspected and repaired in port. To push harder now would risk secondary failure, and I will not permit that. We've also experienced increasing signal noise in our radio communications with coastal support stations. This is not uncommon in the post-storm environment. The ionosphere remains unsettled, and HF radio waves can become scattered. We are receiving updates, just with delay and partial dropout. Our navigational integrity remains unaffected. Positioning is being confirmed via dual gyro compass and visual tracking of key celestial references. You are still very much on course, even if our journey feels longer now. We expect to arrive at the Bermuda Channel by late tomorrow evening, or early the next morning, depending on how conditions hold. Our course is locked, our systems are stable, and we are making steady progress. Exterior decks 5 and 6 have now been cleared and reopened for supervised use during daylight hours. Please respect all signage and crew instructions. Certain windward areas remain off limits due to surface slick and residual equipment staging. I'll leave you with one personal note before I sign off. There are long hours after a storm where nothing seems to happen. No wind, no voices, no decisions to make. These hours are not wasted. They are the body rebalancing. They are the ocean reminding us it does not always have to roar to be felt. Let that stillness do its work. Captain Langston. 7:30 p.m. ship time, day 5. Good evening, passengers. This is Captain Everett Langston, speaking to you at the close of what I know has been a long, subdued day aboard the Eos Meridian. We remain on course toward Bermuda, continuing at reduced speed. Current estimates place us at the channel entrance by mid-morning the day after tomorrow. Our engineering team has confirmed that our propulsion system remains stable within safe thermal margins. though Pod 3 continues to operate under conservative output protocols. We are, in every essential way, sound, but we are moving slowly, deliberately, and with constraint. And that constraint, I know you can feel it, not just in the hull beneath your feet, but in the air between you and the people around you. These last 48 hours have shifted something, not drastically, not visibly, but collectively. Meals are quieter. The lounge feels underpopulated, even when full. Conversations have softened or stopped altogether. This is the psychological weight of uncertainty. Not crisis, just drift, the in-between. We're a population of 5,000 people, contained in steel and glass, hovering between coordinates, waiting to return to solid ground. Our clocks still move forward, our meals still arrive, and yet something essential, the forward sense of time, feels slowed. Some of you have reported vivid dreams. Some of you haven't been sleeping at all. Others have said the silence is too much, that it hums louder than the storm. I understand. It's not the absence of noise that unsettles us. It's what silence makes us notice. Our thoughts, our doubts, our need for direction. I want to remind you that our onboard counseling team is available at all hours. You do not need a diagnosis to speak with someone. You only need a moment of pause. We've also opened the observatory lounge on Deck 10 for quiet sitting. No music, no programming, just a place to look outward and let your mind settle into the sea's horizon. I have instructed our hospitality crew to resume music programming in communal areas, beginning with low-volume classical and ambient selections. Nothing disruptive, just a thread of human tone to re-anchor the spaces we've been walking through in silence. The ocean tonight is nearly flat, a faint ripple touched by starlight. Above us, a sky of unbroken constellations, the kind you only ever see far from land, where light pollution fades and the galaxy stretches full. Step outside if you're able. Decks 5 and 6 remain open during daylight and early evening hours. Bring a jacket, the air has cooled. And if you pass someone you don't know, nod. Say something. Reconfirm the presence of one another. We are not lost. We are simply slower, and we are still together. Captain Langston, out. Ship time is 10:05 a.m., day 6. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Langston on the bridge, and today, for the first time in nearly a week, I have the pleasure of saying these words: land is in sight. As of 9:42, we made visual confirmation of the northern edge of Bermuda. To port, if you are in the right cabins, you may see it already, a low, soft silhouette on the horizon, pale green and sun-dusted, almost shy to emerge from the haze. After all we've been through, it feels strange to see it now. Small, distant, but steady. However, I must temper that vision with clarity. Due to ongoing currents and minor drift over the past 48 hours, compounded by low engine output and limited course corrections, we are approaching Bermuda from a more northerly arc than originally charted. This places us slightly off the main channel used by larger vessels. While that in itself is not a danger, it does mean we must slow further and await pilot escort before proceeding into port. Our current speed is 6 knots. We expect to hold this for several hours, as we align with the Maritime approach route and coordinate with harbor control. You will likely feel the ship growing steadier now, less sway, less pitch. That's because the sea around Bermuda is shallow compared to where we've been. The swell dampens. The ocean becomes quieter. You'll also notice an increase in vessel traffic, cargo ships, fishing trawlers, and the first signs of the island's ferry system. After 5 days of near total isolation, seeing even a single moving vessel can be jarring. This is normal. The world is still here. We are simply rejoining it. In the next few hours, we'll begin broadcasting dockside instructions to crew and preparing for limited disembarkation for emergency maintenance, fuel transfer, and critical system inspection. I want to emphasize, this is not a full passenger disembarkation. We will remain offshore overnight, Our port access has been expedited, but not guaranteed for immediate entry. We are one of several ships delayed by the same storm system. Maritime priority will be determined based on mechanical status and passenger needs. In the meantime, the decks have been reopened. Please step outside. Take in the view of land. Smell the difference in the air. It's there. Salt, yes, but also pine, heat, and something softer. Something alive. I know many of you were expecting turquoise water, music on the pier, the bustle of arrival. Instead, you'll receive a slow approach. A careful one. That's still arrival. It just takes longer to feel it. We are coordinating with Bermuda's harbor services to ensure fuel, fresh water, and food replenishment before we begin the final leg of our revised voyage. I'll have more on that this evening. But for now, after everything we've endured, I want you to look toward the horizon, not as something we're chasing, but something we've reached. Captain Langston signing out. 7:45 p.m. ship time, day 6. Good evening, passengers. Captain Langston here with another status update from the bridge of the Eos Meridian. As of this hour, we remain in the outer anchorage zone, northeast of Bermuda. The island is now clearly visible from our upper and portside decks, with harbor lights beginning to shimmer along the southern coastline. It is close enough to see, close enough to feel, but not yet close enough to touch. We were informed by Bermuda Port Authority earlier this afternoon that due to congestion from storm-delayed vessels and limited berth availability, our docking window has been pushed to tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. That time may shift forward or back by an hour, depending on tug availability and offloading traffic. I know this news will be disappointing to many of you who were anticipating solid ground tonight. You are not alone in that feeling. Still, I must ask for a bit more patience. While this anchorage position offers visual reassurance, we remain under post-storm protocol. That means port approach must proceed in phases. Right now, the harbor is working overtime to accommodate cargo resupply, medical offload from a smaller vessel that suffered hull damage during the storm, and 2 cruise ships carrying more than 10,000 passengers between them. We are not forgotten. We are simply in line. The good news is that we've begun preliminary resupply by tender. This evening, 2 support vessels arrived with fresh water stores, supplemental fuel, and perishable foodstuffs. Offloading is underway via crane-assisted transfer on Deck 3. Galley staff are already preparing meals using newly arrived ingredients, and I've authorized a full-service resumption schedule starting tomorrow at midday. I want to take a moment to speak, not as a captain, but as a fellow passenger on this vessel of steel and slowed time. We are docked, in spirit, just not in position. We see buildings, lights, shorelines, but we cannot disembark. That contradiction can be difficult. Some of you have expressed frustration, and some quiet agitation has spread among the lounges and observation areas. That is entirely understandable. There is a psychological threshold we cross when land appears, a shift from endurance to expectation. When that expectation is delayed, the patience that once held strong begins to fray. I assure you, the crew is aware. We are listening. To support morale this evening, we've extended access to open-air decks until 10 p.m. and resumed soft music on decks 6 and 7. The observatory lounge will remain open overnight for those unable to sleep. I encourage you to speak with one another, even briefly. A few words help recalibrate this moment back toward perspective. For those in interior cabins, the crew has placed photos of the island, taken just before sunset, on your cabin info screens. You'll see what others saw: trees bending slightly in warm wind, boats drifting on a gentle tide, the warm glow of earthbound life just beyond reach. We are close now. Tomorrow will come. We just have to hold one more night in place. I'll speak with you again before first light. Captain Langston, out. The ship time is 5:12 a.m., day 7. Good morning, passengers. This is Captain Everett Langston, speaking to you for the final time on this crossing. I'm standing on the bridge right now, looking out across a harbor slowly brightening with morning haze. At 4:47, we crossed the outer breakwater into Hamilton Harbor. At 5:01, the Eos Meridian completed her final alignment. Mooring lines are now secured to the south pier. The engines are at rest, stabilizers retracted. Deck access to land will begin in stages at 7:30. We have arrived. The portside view will show palm trees bending lightly in the offshore breeze, warehouse cranes motionless against the dawn, and the faint blue of the harbor water touching gently against the hull. Shore crew are preparing to board. Customs will be brief. For many of you, your feet will touch land within hours. This journey has been unlike any I've commanded. We departed Lisbon beneath golden skies, with 1,000 conversations echoing through cafes and stairwells. Then, the sea turned. Quietly at first, then completely. And for 5 days we were somewhere in between. Between systems, between forecasts, between what we expected and what came. The storm was not apocalyptic. It was not catastrophic. It was simply unrelenting. And in that, it tested us. There were moments of motion no stabilizer could soften. Sounds that vibrated through steel in ways that made sleep uncertain. And then came the stillness that followed, the kind that doesn't comfort, but asks questions. What will we become when the noise stops? You answered that question with grace. You were patient in tight corridors, gentle with crew. Quiet in ways that weren't silence, but steadiness. Not every passenger sees what the bridge sees, but I did. And I want you to know, the sea is still a place for resilience. As we prepare to disembark, I ask only this: before you step ashore, before your phone reactivates, before schedules return, stand on one of the open decks just for a minute. Feel the echo of the ocean still moving beneath you. Let that memory anchor something within you. You'll hear the crew beginning to make announcements shortly. Staggered disembarkation begins with decks 4 and 5, followed by upper levels as clearance allows. You'll be directed to baggage collection and customs as appropriate. Our hospitality team will be present throughout. On behalf of every officer, engineer, steward, and crew member aboard the Eos Meridian, thank you for your patience, your resilience, and for allowing us to carry you across one of the most unpredictable stretches of sea we've ever faced. The voyage ends here. Captain Langston, signing out one final time.